Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned in to Get Well Soon, the red pill content of Welly F, aka Moriarty. Look, man, you probably think I'm crazy right now because my last video was titled Save Our Children, and the whole concept of saving our children is probably somewhat rooted in the fact that it takes a village. I understand that. I'm just pointing out something that to me has been a slippery slope for a long time. And I think one of the first times I noticed it was when I was young and I was watching shows like The Brady Bunch, Partridge Family. I'm not that old, but I happen to like old school stuff. Shows like Step by Step. And I want to say there were other shows that kind of made, I guess you call it, the extended family or step family, the 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 co-parenting with somebody to raise children that aren't yours. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know the sociological definition of it, but I'm just here to speak on it from a rant perspective and something. It was a conversation that I had this past weekend with some close friends of mine, and it really stemmed from the fact that I truthfully believe that step parenting isn't natural, and due to it being unnatural, it can be fairly depressing and extremely uneasy. But not only that, I I grew up in a world thinking to myself that, that's really heroic. That's, I guess, shows some chivalry on the man's behalf and on the woman's behalf when it comes to acknowledging and raising children that aren't yours. But look, man, when I talk about the Brady Bunch, Partridge Family, and stuff like that, man, we're talking about 20th century concepts. Those 20th century concepts have programmed us to believe that it is natural. It has programmed us to believe that these things should be seen as quote unquote okay. And this is my beef, man, in all honesty. In my experience as a single dad, I'm going to be honest, I haven't met too many willing female participants that are going to step up and say, you know what, I want to raise your kid. And I want to raise your kid solely due to the fact that I'm in love with you, I love your child, and I want to be the mother that he possibly never had. I have yet to meet a woman like that in my entire life. I have met women that have seen me raising my son and they thought to themselves, oh, he'd be a good dad. Let me get pregnant by him so we can raise our kid together. That's how it usually is. It's never a selfless act of wanting to step up and be a mother for a child that is not biologically theirs. On the other hand, I know plenty males that have stepfathered and stepped up to the plate to be a father without any intentions of even having children with the woman. Just stepping up, just being like, I love this woman. This woman has 1, 2, 3 children, but I want to be with this woman and I'm going to take her kids in like they're my own. I don't know how to continue this without sounding mean, but the fact of the matter is, I don't think men should do that. I think men should definitely get with women with the intentions of, I love this woman, I'm gonna be with this woman, and this is what I want. She has children, that's fine. But I also think that men should really approach her like women do. Sort of. And it's really hard to explain, but my whole point here is I look at it as incentivizing bad behavior. Like, It's 2020. When are we going to accept the fact that some of these women just are horrible at picking the men that they pick? Whether the man is in jail, whether the man is just shitty and he has a drug addiction, no matter what, we have to point out that women do a horrible job at picking out men, and inevitably another man has to pay for the consequences of another man's sin. Here in the red pill world, we understand that alpha fucks beta bucks. We understand that. But to be honest with you, that shouldn't even be a concept. Don't think that I'm glorifying this alpha, this Chad, this Tyrone for dipping on a woman that would bear his child. Like, I don't excuse that behavior, but at the end of the day, I understand it. Some women aren't worth shit either. I mean, some of them deserve to be dipped on because a lot of them try to trap men into these positions, and it's all to extort their resources. But that's two things that should not become. Those are two things that should not become common. On one hand, obviously men got to strap up. Men got to be careful. Men got to put themselves in situations where it's not even an argument. Like, there's no debate. The child's not mine. Find a dad. And on the other hand, women shouldn't stoop so low for companionship that they try to trap men. Women need to practice better vetting practices and get with men that they're actually going to love and want to raise children with. Women shouldn't want to simply extract a man's resources so that man can pay for her vacations while Lil Jerome is living on Lunchables and she's supplying his clothes from Burlington Coat Factory while she has a Chanel bag and 95-inch TV in her house that the kids can't even watch, and so on and so forth. Like, this should not even be normal. But once again, we, especially as men, have incentivized the bad behavior of women when we step up to the plate like white knights, like saviors, like heroes, when women make terrible decisions. I've never thought I would get to the point where I would be like, I don't think single mothers are horrible. I'll never say that. But the fact of the matter is, I do believe that single mothers, in a sense, should have to pay for their consequences. And in so many ways they do. That's why a lot of single mothers end up raising some of the worst kids out there. I mean, I do believe that it's sort of a balance. I do believe that there's plenty of single mothers out there that have good support systems and they raise good children. But what about those single mothers that don't have support systems, that pumped out 4 or 5 kids and all they have is ignorant friends that are just like them, and they're low-key just raising a bunch of useless kids. They're low-key just raising a bunch of useful idiots, more than likely future blue-collar workers, which isn't bad, but at the same time, they're just raising, to an extent, robots that really aren't going to really change anything. And once again, I'm not just saying I'm some great man. I was raised in a single mother home, but let's be honest, being raised in a dual parent home, you see the statistics. I mean, they have their ups and downs, but I do believe that even going back to the animal kingdom, these children should be raised by a mom and a dad. And before I conclude, I would like to say that if a woman has a child with a man that she's not going to be romantically involved with, then co-parenting without forced co-parenting, meaning I'm going to the courts to force you to co-parent, like, we as a society need to learn that, hey, we make mistakes. But we have a real duty here now, and that is to raise a child or raise children. And that should be the focal point. So regardless of a stepdad wanting to step up and take care of these kids, the real issue should be the biological father stepping up to take care of his kids, and the woman being mature enough to accept that the biological father wants to be a father, once again, without getting the government and the courts involved out of pettiness. So, once again, to an extent, I kind of admire guys that want to step up and be stepdads, but just look at the other side. How many moms or how many women are stepping up to be stepmoms? You're doing something that you may see as virtuous. For what reason? I mean, in all honesty, it kind of feels like the virtues, the natural virtues of a man, or the social virtues of what makes a man, in some ways, it feels like that's going to be the death of us. Like, to some point, it's almost like we probably should start treating women the way women treat men. And we probably would be a lot different in society today if that were the case. But as usual, I can go on forever. But I stand on what I say. I believe step parenting is an incentive for bad behavior. And I definitely believe that one way or another, that could cause a real cosmic shift if a lot more men were like, hey, that's something that you and your boyfriend gotta, you and your baby daddy gotta deal with, because at the end of the day, yeah, I love you, but I will never be able to love your children like I would love the child that you birthed for me. I mean, you can go on this is a blog called steptalk.org, and there are plenty of step parents on there that talk about this type of stuff. I mean, you can go on Reddit and you can read comments from step parents. It ain't easy. Kids can be lovely just as much as they can be fucking demonic and annoying. So, and that takes a special type of love, and a lot of times that's a blood bond. You can't force that. So, no matter what, biological fathers, they just got to step up, but as well as biological mothers realizing who they're dealing with from the beginning and not being trifling. Like, really? You want a Chanel bag? You want a trip to the Bahamas? You don't have to use a child's life to get those things. There are other ways. But anyways, wake up, men. Stop incentivizing this bad behavior, because in the end, all you're doing is creating a generation of women that are insufferable and intolerable, and in all honesty, we're witnessing it now. But anyways, until we meet again.